Not just for the voice, Blake Shelton received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame for the way he transformed country music. The voice is everything with Blake Shelton in the end, and without the need to add any additional punctuation, such as quotation marks, italics, or a capital T and V. No matter how modern the musical contexts created around it grew, his baritone was the first and last reason he came to America. It resonates with an authority that feels passed down from a different period of country music. Even when Shelton is singing a boisterous party hymn, there's something in his tone that makes it feel like a grown-ass rowdy party anthem. It matches serious songs from The Baby to God's Country wonderfully. And do you recall how much of a relief it was when he shaved off his long hair in the early 2000s just after becoming a successful musician? Although the mullet had fallen out of favor, that was not the main reason. It was not because Shelton required flowing curls, rather, he sought a hairstyle that complemented his voice. The world felt at peace once he began to appear as though he was singing. But, alright, we lied. After all, it's not only about the voice. It's also about the voice, of course, and the wonderful comic presence he provided for an incredible 12 years and 23 seasons. It had to do with the energy he brought to the NBC sitcom, which at once managed to be both laconic and extremely energizing. One of his few non-country idols was Dean Martin, and while it may seem sacrilegious, Shelton may have even surpassed Martin's ability to maintain an air of near-constant levity while also possessing the skills necessary to keep things grounded as a consummate pro. Not to mention his voice when speaking. Who among us hasn't felt the urge to relocate to his native Oklahoma to live in a place where everyone theoretically speaks with that irresistible spoken twang after hearing it nearly every week for the past 12 years in broadcast network primetime, where accents haven't always been welcomed? Now, as visitors walk by or near Shelton's new star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, they will recall that voice. Even if the singer is leaving the voice, years after the show's only other true staple, Adam Levine, made his own exit, they won't soon forget about it. Losing someone who spent this much time poking American buttons feels just as significant in television terms as Mark Harmon quitting NCIS. Many of the specific instances when I thought someone was on the verge of stardom or should be remembered, but Shelton stands out in my mind. It was over 7 years later, in 2003, before he even appeared on The Voice. He and I were speaking on the phone about the second No. One country hit of his career out of the nearly 30 that he's had so far. The tune in question, The Baby, was a traditional country story song, the style on which he established his early career. This particular one was a genuinely tear-jerking lament about a devoted mother who was dying. While the baby of the family, the narrator, makes every effort to travel to her house in order to say goodbye to her before she passes away. I anticipated meeting someone who was as serious as the song after hearing the severity of his delivery. He said to me, "I'm one of the coldest people I know, but that song even makes me want to cry." I vividly remember trying to contain my laughter when I read that statement because of its unexpected irreverence. The singer who had just made me cry was going to make people laugh as well. I had believed he was simply another hat act because, back then, he always wore a Stetson to go with his mullet. And to think that it only took an additional 7 or so years for the years later, while we were discussing the development of his musical career, he recalled to me that my first 3 hits were all story songs. Before The Baby, there was Austin, his first No. 1, an earnest, melancholy song about a man who undoubtedly left TMI on his ex-girlfriend's answering machine, and that all read, a somewhat more boisterous song about a prisoner whose familiarity with prison canines aided in an escape. That song curiously petered out at No. 14, despite the fact that it continues to be one of the most enduring elements of his live performance and was eventually the source of the name for his 5-story Nashville bar, Ole Red. You are definitely that guy to people when you only have 3 singles out and they are all story songs.